Hello friends, thank you for joining me today. My name's Dan and I'm here to do the final layer on this painting. But first let's get official. This is Daily Art Adventure number 544, Broken Color. I do that just for fun, of course. These videos are completely unedited, so, well, maybe I'll edit them someday and then I might use that clapper. Never mind, I won't get into the technology. Why do they do that? There's a reason. It has to do with the sound. Anyway, if you have followed me the last couple of days, I put together this document in response to what I did on Friday, I believe it was, on this painting. And I'm through all these layers all the way down to stage number 15, which is, I've called here, Broken Color. And as you can probably see by the title I put on this, I'm calling this that crazy new layer, Broken Color. This is a principle that, of course, I've been aware of it vaguely for decades, but have become consciously, keenly aware of it just in the last couple of years. And I do this all the time, but let me define it again. What is broken color? Well, first of all, let me define what is broken values. That is, in your painting, you have, let's just zero in right here. Let's say you have an area that in this case is sort of a mid-range gray, but right in the middle of it, boom, is a white light thing. And also right in the middle of it, boom, is a dark thing. Those are broken values. Here's the value, and the light and the dark break the value. Same thing over here, get even smaller. Here's a value range, mid-tone gray in this case, and all those black dots break that. Same thing here, this light area breaks it. So broken values, which I personally, as you may know, I use extensively in my painting. Many of my paintings are just outrageous exaggerations of values. But broken color is same value, so not violating the overall lightness, darkness, but instead violating the color. So let's zoom in right into the same area just for a minute. And I just happen to have on my brushes, so I'm sort of mid-tone, bluish violet. So I want to find an area of the painting that's essentially the same value as what's already on my brush. Now, I like that all right, except that I think doing two of them was a mistake. So let me wipe off that one. Okay, so that little smudge of purple violet there is broken color. So let me look for other, I'm going to make this a little bit darker, and I'm going to add some color killer to it. My favorite color, my go-to color killer is raw umber. If you know what raw umber is, you go, yeah, that's about as dull a color as you can get. And I prefer student grade raw umber because I don't have to be very careful about how much I get on my brush. So now I'm looking for dark areas down here in the trees that I can just sneak in essentially some purple here and there. Now, it might be, no, let me back up. I think the way my personality works, and for goodness sake, your personality does not need to work the way mine does, right? That's a given. You don't need to be crazy the way I'm crazy. You can be crazy in your own unique way. But the way my personality works, it seems that I function better in painting if I do everything sort of by stages, by formula even. Now the downside of formulas are that if you adhere to them, if I could use this word, if you adhere to your formulas religiously, then they will not serve you well. The formulas are just there to support a given principle, this or that principle, but they are not meant to be followed slavishly. So anyway, and I do that. My formula is flexible. In fact, where's that document? Here's the thing I put together just the other day, just to make sure we're clear about it here. It says Dan Nelson's painting process. And then in hand lettering with a caret there, it says Dan Nelson's latest, because I'm always evolving, and approximate. So this is my approximate. That's what you do with a formula. You handle it loosely and make changes whenever the feeling strikes you. Okay, so I'm the kind of person who gravitates toward formulas, if you will, or order, a process. I tend to be obsessive compulsive. I try to draw the line before I spill over into obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. I'm not OCD, I'm just OC. And I love being obsessive compulsive. I think everybody should be that way. Anyway, so because of that, then, as you can imagine, then I tend to take things and put them, as I said, in a formula. So my formula now is I've turned the broken color into a separate and distinct layer. I can imagine many good artists kind of rolling their eyes and saying, "Oh, good grief, Nelson, you're not supposed to do a whole stage, a whole phase, a whole layer of broken color. You're just supposed to work it into the painting all the way along." Does that make sense? I think a lot of people, that's what they would do. They would, and that would works great for them. And I say, bully for them. But I think what works for me, and if it works for me, it'll work for a certain segment of the painting population, if I can use that crazy term. Okay, so I have just, without working too hard, I've just switched my color on my brushes to kind of a dirty raspberry or dirty plum. Oh, and I'll give you, besides looking for, and it's still fairly dark, besides looking for values that match what's on my brushes, I also look for, it helps me look for little hints. So right now I've got a dark purplish red, right? Raspberry, plum on my brush. So what do I look for? My eye tends to look around the canvas looking for where I see little tiny hints of that already showing up. And then I just come in and reinforce it. And I don't do that all the time, but much of the time. And of course, I have those little surprise bits of color, largely because of my earlier painting technique. You know, what I did earlier in this painting, where I did, you know, crazy colors, start the painting by doing crazy colors all over the place. So some of those colors are still showing through. You'll notice that most of this broken color is also very soft-edged. And maybe as I mature in this, maybe I'll get to the point where I will be able to slab on more intense. Maybe. But until that happens, I'm quite happy just doing it. Now, what makes me think, what has convinced me that this broken color trick is worth doing is simply the look that it creates when the painting is finished. And for me, like I'm nearly finished this painting. And you know, a year ago I would have said done and signed it. But now I don't. Now I go, oh, wait a minute. No, let's do this broken color thing. And so I've already been staring at this painting, at this canvas for, you know, several minutes this morning before I started painting. And I like the painting quite well. But I am quite surprised. Did I need to say that twice? Yes, I did. In fact, I need to say it a third time. I am quite surprised After I've done just a few minutes, really, 10, 15 minutes of this broken color thing, when I stand back and look at the painting again, I go, oh my goodness, that is sweet. That really made a difference. In fact, I would think, compared to all the other stages or layers of my painting process, this is the layer that I put the least paint on the canvas. I cover less of the canvas in this stage than any other stage. And yet, pound for pound, lick for lick, minute for minute, or whatever way you want to measure it, this has the biggest impact compared to how little I'm actually doing to the canvas. And I really think that in doing this kind of thing, I'm right in line with the real impressionists, Monet and his ilk. Because in real life, things aren't as simple as they appear. Well, that's not the right way to put it, because I want to talk about how things really appear. Things are much more complicated in real life than we're able to capture, in several hours on a canvas. And this is just one way to try to at least begin to approach the visual complexity that in fact does assault our eyeballs every time we open our eyes. So now I've got a sort of a dull orange on my brushes, and it's considerably lighter. So I'm looking for lighter values than I was looking for a while ago. Down here in this green area. Now every once in a while, I find that while I'm doing this broken color, I do intuitively introduce some broken value. Like I just put that, I hope you can see that little stroke, that little orange right there. See, that's not the same value. That stroke pops out. But that's okay with me. So that's not classic broken color. That's broken color and value. That is right. And again, I give myself permission to do that. It's fine with me. Okay, but let's find some areas in here where the under what's already on the canvas really is. There we go. Ooh, that's a nice one. That I'm matching values. Another thing that surprises me, and this has surprised me for years when looking at other masterful, I don't mean to say that, when looking at old masters' paintings. I'm trying to think of the American landscape master. Not quite Hudson River. His name escapes me. It'll come back. Of course, it'll come back to me as soon as I quit broadcasting. But anyway, did some beautiful, beautiful landscapes, and a touch of impressionistic looseness in them. And in my mind, he's famous for this very thing in his trees, in particular. He'll have purple and red and blue in his green trees, so to speak, right? The trees. You look at the painting and you feel like the trees are green, but when you actually look at them, you say, oh, he's got all these colors. So that's what sort of inspires me at this moment right now. If you keep the values right, it is surprising the amount of freedom that you have to introduce crazy color, not realistic color, right? You understand, once again, what I'm doing right now is not exactly connected to realism. Although in the Impressionist world, it actually is, as I just said. This adds a bit of chaos to the scene that actually is there. We just don't usually notice it. This helps us approximate the complexity of reality. Whew, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? Yeah, some orange. So again, I'm still doing little bits of orange. I'm going around the color wheel. I don't know if you noticed that or not, by the way. When I first started this broadcast, I was doing... Hello, Donna Lobes. Nice to see you again. Hello, Nellie Visser. Hello, Shandan Ram. Nice to see you all. When I started this broadcast, I started at purple, then I went to red, then to orange, right? So I'm going around. Actually, I did a little blue before I started the broadcasting. So blue, purple, orange, blue, purple, red, orange. So what's next? Right, yellow. And of course, I mean, you could spend hours doing this if you wanted to. That's not my inclination. I don't feel like spending hours. First of all, I'd probably be overdoing it if I did that. Too much of a good thing, so to speak. But just going around the color wheel rather quickly. So I'm all the way to yellow, and I think I'm going to start with an ochre-ish yellow. By the way, just for what it's worth, you might know that I use Liquin a lot. That's my main go-to medium. That's a fast dry medium. But a word of caution here, and this is related to that out-of-date expression, fat over lean. Don't say fat over lean. And if you run into a teacher who teaches you fat over lean, you know you're dealing with an old teacher. Sorry, that sounded mean. I'm trying to be a good teacher and save you. No, the expression now should be slow dry over fast dry. Okay, so that fat over lean is an old-fashioned, harkens back to the day when almost every medium you added to your paint made it fat, like linseed oil. It slowed down the drying. That's why it made sense 60, 80, 100 years ago. But these days, so many of the mediums we use this is not fat, this is lean, this is fast dry. Anyway, but the further you go, so this is that same principle just straightened out for you. The further you go in a painting, the more layers that you get in a painting, the more cautious you need to be about, okay, wait a minute, is everything oil? Is everything that's already on the canvas fast dry? Is there anything on there that's kind of slow dry? If so, you can't use fast dry on top of it. Okay? So this morning, before I started this broadcast, I did a glaze over the entire canvas, slight warm, very slight, little bit of Indian yellow, tiny bit of Indian yellow, and oxide red over the entire canvas. Gave it a uniform sheen, which was nice. But the medium I used was walnut alkyd, which is, even though it's alkyd, that quote-unquote is a fast dry, but it's much, much slower dry than liquid, okay? So what I'm using this morning, just as an instruction for you, is actually a combination. I've mixed these two together to make sure that I'm not putting fast dry on top of anything that's slightly slower dry. So again, just for what it's worth, the further you proceed in a painting, the more you have to be cautious about, wait a minute, and then you better start using some slow dry medium. Okay, so I have got here, what color, how does it compare? It's just a slightly lighter than yellow ochre. Okay, so that means I should be looking for things that are not yellow, but are approximate this value. Yeah, that's okay. How about little values break up if I put this up there? But yeah, I like it. How about way down here on this road. This road is rather uniform in its color. So can I introduce some? I think I can. You may be perceiving rightly. It doesn't matter it almost doesn't matter where I put these little dabs of broken color, right? Again, we're not dealing with realism. Ooh, that was nice. So I just did a little bit of this dark ochre on top of what was red and a little bit there. And oh my goodness, did that just make that jump out sweetly. It did indeed. Here I am doing broken color on top of broken color. I did that blue just a little while ago. And here I am now doing yellow on top of it. I'm going to switch to a slightly yellower yellow right now. Yeah, that was nice. And again, I'm not bragging here. It's like I'm as surprised as anybody when something turns out well. It's like, ooh, that was nice. No, I didn't do that on purpose. It was a nice. Okay, I don't have to beat this. I haven't done much up here in the sky. Let's lower this thing. And lighten this yellow again. Isn't that one fancy easel? Now I ask you, who in their right mind needs an easel like that? Life is funny. Life is funny, isn't it? I remember for years looking at these things in catalogs and thinking, that's ridiculous. Talk about overkill. Anybody that would anybody with an easel like that is compensating for something. And I still think that. But things happen. A funny series of events took place, and I was given this easel along with several others. It's a long story. One of those things you can't make happen in life, you know. It just happens. Take it as the cosmos tossing you a little favor. Hi, Lakey Boo.
I think you got a comment.
I do. I have several chats, I see. I'll come back and look at them in a minute. Once again, I am aware that painting with two hands really is an advantage. I suggest you try it. Not because it feels good or feels natural. In fact, quite the opposite. It works because it doesn't feel natural. It feels weird. That's part of the reason why it works. But when I'm trying to make marks that are interesting, it really does help. Okay, I've almost got too much yellow up here in the sky, I think so. That's easy fix. Now painting with a rag. And I can push that yellow back just to the right degree. And there we go. Now we're happy. Yeah. I need to come back up there with some violet purple as well. Okay, but I'm done with the yellow. Let's keep on going around the color wheel. Without cleaning my brushes, I'm just going to mix up some green here. Let me be clear again. This is not realism. I'm not trying to, well, other than in the impressionistic sense of the word, it's realism. That is to say, the impressionists would say, no, this is really the way the human mind sees the world. Okay, in that sense, it's realism. But no, I'm not copying the colors that are in the photograph, that are in this subject matter. Right now I am. As soon as I say that, now I start contradict because the windows on that building are green. But no, down here, I didn't put a little bit of green. Let me zoom in so maybe you can see that. I did not put a little bit of green right there because, oh, in the photograph there's there's no hint of green. So now I've got green, red, purple, yellow, gold, red, all in that one shadow. And for those of you who paint by the grumpy adult mind, the grumpy judging adult mind, which you hear me rant and rave about every once in a while, that's going to drive you guys crazy. Because you would say, I don't see that. Of course not. Of course you don't see that. I don't see it either. I'm putting in there, not because I see it, but because it makes it a more interesting painting. And it really does do that. Again, when you're doing broken color, you're looking for values. So I've got a fairly light green here. Mid-tone, maybe about a number 4 or 5 on a value scale, 1 being white, 10 being black. This is a little bit on the lighter side of middle. So I'm looking for places on the painting that are that same value. I think, now to you guys who are watching me, and to myself as I do this, our mind is going, ooh, wow, that's really bold. That's crazy. I can't believe you did that. That's sort of what I'm feeling. But if I hadn't watched myself do this step, I don't think I'd be feeling that way at all. I really don't expect very many people. Only a fellow painter would walk up to this canvas, to this painting when it's done and say, ooh, look at all the broken color. A non-artist will walk up to this painting and say, oh, wow, nice painting. I hope. Of course, that's our hope always, right? But as I'm doing it, it does feel rather bold until I go and look at other people whose paintings I admire greatly and go, oh, I guess I wasn't being as bold as I thought I was. That's the way it feels almost all the time. All right, so theoretically, I've completed one circuit around the color wheel. Not theoretically, in reality, I've completed one circuit around the color wheel. Now, that doesn't mean I could continue, because I could mix up, like the first time I did yellow, I started at blue, and it was a fairly pale blue. So you see that indicated here and here. That I could go around this time and make it either more pale or darker. But I feel like I've done enough. It's getting to the point now of fiddling. The one exception to that is I want to go back to purple violet again, because I saw some opportunities up here in the sky, and I can switch to a larger brush too. I saw some opportunities up here in the sky for some purple that I missed way back when I was doing the purple several minutes ago. So let me lower this easel down. So I've got about a mid-tone violet, I think. Now, the purple up here is hardly a surprise color. Let me move you guys a little bit so you see more than just the top of my bald head, eh? So again, doing purple in the sky is hardly a bold move. Do you understand it? because there is a lot. The shady side of a cloud often appears purple, because the sunny side of the cloud appears warm, yellow-orange, right? So the opposite of yellow-orange is blue-purple. So this is kind of it's not a bold move, but I did glance up and say, oh, wait a minute. There should be some more color in that sky, purple in particular. So there you go. Let me change this to a lighter purple now, so I can introduce some color down here in the lighter part of the sky. And what you see me doing here, moving like this, that's what I mean by this is really quite a bit easier to do with two hands than it is with one, because your brain can keep up, so to speak. Your brain can keep up with what one hand is doing. Your brain can't quite keep up with what two hands are doing if they're both moving quickly. And that usually is a good thing, because your temptation, my temptation, is to overthink everything. Let the brushes paint. Let your hands paint. Get your dad burn control freak brain out of the way. All right. Now there's hints of every color in the rainbow. Hints of every color in that sky. So I'm happy with that. I saw some opportunities for some of that pale purple in that building right there. Where else? Anywhere else down here in the trees? Some pale purple would be nice, don't you think? In the light areas of the trees, yeah. All right. I think at that point I just begin fiddling. So let's stop fiddling. Hey, it's been a while. Those of you who've heard this before, you can hang up, you can leave us now. Been a while since I did my rant about signatures. So for those of you who have just joined us in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, it's time for a Dan Nelson's infamous signature rant. Okay, let me get you guys down here. I have opinions. Oh my goodness. I have opinions about signatures, and I'm going to share them all with you right now. And my judging of shows has done nothing to diminish, if I'm speaking sort of in code, my judging of shows, and I'm judging at least 2 out-of-town shows in the next month and a half or so. That's not good enough. I want to get you guys in real close, so hang on. Forgive me while I give you a rocket ride. Okay, still moving. Hang on. All right. Whew, getting there. All right. I have opinions about signatures. And as they say on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, all of my opinions all of my questions are carefully thought out, because all my answers are not. So anyway, something like that. Never mind. It's NPR, Saturday morning, funny news program. So what I'm saying is my opinions might not be correct, but here they are for what it's worth. Let me turn you around so you can, after getting you all situated, I want to talk to you eyeball to eyeball. Here's the overarching principle about signatures. Your signature is your #1 marketing tool. I know some of you, you're never going to sell a painting in your life, so you say, I don't care. Yeah, but even your great-grandchildren who inherit one of your paintings, or not, they're going to throw it out because they don't realize that it was great-great-grandmama's painting, because they can't read your dang signature. Once again, he's commenced to cussing. If you ever want to sell a painting, but just for posterity, people need to be able to read your signature. Now, there's so many people that don't know this. Again, I walked into a bank. I've done, for a Paragon Bank, I've done now 5, maybe 6 paintings for a nice bank here in town. Local bank, good bank. So they have 5 or 6 of my paintings, but in their lobby they have 2 or 3 larger than mine paintings. They're decent paintings. I actually know what gallery they came from because I've seen this artist's work hanging in that gallery. And I go, oh, not bad. And I walk up to the painting to see who did it. And it's one of those artsy scrawls. First of all, I think that tendency to do the artsy scrawl grows out of 2 impulses. One is outrageous arrogance. I will be so famous that they will recognize my mark, no matter how messy it is. Outrageously arrogant. I call that the mark of Zorro school of thought. They will know that I was here. Preposterous. First of all, I know most of the good artists in town, and whoever did this painting, I don't know who they are. Anyway, because they used the slashy scribbly. Don't do that. I mean, I know some of you aren't going to pay any attention, and some of you are better than me, and you can ignore me. But all those of you who are not as good as I am telling you, like a papa putting his child on his knee, do a signature that people can read. Number 2, do not do initials. Now you can do your first initial, like in my case it would be D. Nelson. Maybe. Now, I'm not talking here. Now I'm talking about the opposite end of the spectrum, not the arrogant SOB who signs his or her painting like Zorro. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, which applies to more of you, which is you're insecure, you lack confidence, you're insecure. So your signature, if it's even on the painting, is kind of like, forgive me for breathing. I am not worthy to put my name on this canvas. So you do it small, ugly, messy, illegible, and initials. DBR, you name it, whatever initials. Mine would be DJN, because I am not worthy to. That's sick. That is just sick. No. And I'm not telling you have to have, the confidence of naming some confident person in order to be a good painter. No, but when it comes to your signature, fake it till you make it. Pretend you have confidence and give us a good signature. Okay, now, this is getting a little bit long. Somebody out there needs to hear that. Okay, let me turn you around now. Back to the canvas. So you have to look at my face anymore. Okay, step number 1, how to do a good signature. And step number 1 is buy. Don't waste your time, your money with anything else. Do not waste your time, your money with anything else. Buy Winsor Newton Series 7. The most expensive brushes in the world, as far as I can tell. Why? Because they're worth it. Because they hold their point. That's why. The cheap stuff does not. So stop wasting your time trying to. Don't say to me, oh, I just can't get my brush to do a little. I say, yeah. Do you have a Winsor Newton Series 7? No. I paid $7 for my brush. And I mean, they're not ridiculously expensive. $15, $20 or something like that. Anyway. Okay, so is this dry? Dry enough. It's not really, but okay. Where do you put your signature? Let me. Oh, I can't zoom out. You know how big this painting is. Do not sign it down here where the frame will cover it up if it's ever framed. And when people who do that are saying, I'm ashamed to be a human. I'm ashamed to be alive. I'm ashamed to be sucking good air that other worthy people. I hope I'm mocking the heck out of this attitude. I'm ashamed to be breathing good oxygen that a worthy human being could be breathing. Cut out that crap. No. You want to put it somewhere, usually the lower right-hand corner, unless it's so busy down here, then lower left-hand corner, that's tradition. Sometimes you can do it up the side if it's needed, but traditional is lower right, but it doesn't have to be. But if in this painting there's so much empty space down here. So how far up into the painting? Well, not so far up that it starts competing, you know, with the the content of the painting. There's lots of room in this painting for it, but not down here so far that it looks like you're just ashamed to be alive. But think like, put on your graphic designer hat for a minute and think, okay, where should it go? Yeah, here, about here. Okay? And and you might say, well, I don't have a signature. Somebody said to me one time in a painter's group, said, well, Dan Nelson's signature is just so perfect, or like nice or something. You know, the point was like, well, he has such a good, nice signature. Okay, how come I have a good, I do have a good signature. Are you kidding? It's my trademark. You bet I have a good, how did that happen? Was it just an accident? No. 30-some year or 40 years ago, I don't remember when, many years ago, but I still remember the act is very fresh in my mind. I sat down with a piece of paper and a pencil and said, what does my signature look like? Because of course, like you, I have a signature that I sign my checks with, right? A messy scrawl. But it's related to this. You can tell it's the same signature. It's just that this one is quite a bit neater. If I may, most of you, so this takes time. Find a piece of paper and figure it out. Figure out what your signature should look like. Let me put it this way. You need to Disneyfy your signature, okay? Probably the most, I would say, without question, the most famous signature in America. John Hancock might be number 2, but the number 1 most famous signature in America is Walt Disney. And I guarantee you that when he signed his checks, his signature did not look like the signature that comes up at the end of every Disney movie. It did not. But the signature that comes up at the end of every movie is could you say, a derivative of what he signed on his checks. So that's what this is. This is my signature, just Disneyfied, if you will, made neat. I've heard some absurd things from supposed art teachers over the years. Let me turn you around just for a minute. Now that I'm getting absurd, let me just eliminate. I've heard like, you know, secondhand, like, well, my teacher said. Let me shoot down some of this. Somebody's out there saying, probably more than one, they heard it from somewhere that sounded good, so they repeat it, and they repeat it, and repeat it. You should do your signature with a single stroke. Again, that leads to what I've already ridiculed, I hope enough, the stupid and outrageously arrogant Mark of Zorro thinking. I'm going to be so famous that they'll just see my scrawl, and that's just stupid. Yeah, there's some people that are that famous, but it's not because of their signature, and only 1 in a million. You know, for every painter who drizzled and dribbled paint on the canvas, there's only 1 Jackson Pollock, 1 out of 2 million. So anyway, no, don't do that stupid 1 stroke. Somebody else said, get this, well, my teacher said we're always supposed to sign with red. Okay, what color are you supposed to sign with? The color that looks good. Typically, it's a color that's already in the painting. Let me turn you around here again, so while we're talking about, it's a color that's already in the painting, and most of the time, it's a color that's in the focal point. So there, do you see the middle of the painting? Yellow-orange, and quite a bit of yellow-orange scattered around there. Therefore, my signature down here in the green area is yellow-orange. But of course, if this area were yellow-orange, I wouldn't be signing it. I'd be signing it different. More often than not, my signatures end up being light against dark. But that's only because most of my corners go dark. If the corner went light, then I would sign with a dark color. Anyway, so no, do not do it. Do not say you have to do it with one stroke. In fact, as you can see here, virtually every stroke that I make, so I've got a clean brush. Do you know what I mean? I mean clean. There, that's in. That's all. Now I'm going back for more paint. Only got one letter to go. So of course, yeah, my signature looks cool. I'm proud of my signature. Why? Because I've never used this term before. Because I took some time, 30 or 40 years ago, I don't remember when, but I do remember doing it. I took some time to think about it and to Disneyfy my signature. Anybody can read that, Dan Nelson. Part of the reason, a small part of the reason that I am fairly well known, boy, that's, you know, I'm putting that in relative air quotes. Wait, my grandson, oldest grandson, keeps saying, "Big car, are you famous yet?" And I have to keep admitting that, no, alas, I am not. But I'm more famouser than I used to be, not as famous as I'm going to be. But anyway, marketing is all part of the business. Make your signature legible. And again, I said, some people said to me, "Well, my signature just isn't that." That's right, because you have to sit down and think about it and Disneyfy your signature. You have to make it look good. All right, there, that's my rant. I promise I probably won't do it again for another 6 months. But for you newbies, you ignore me at your peril. Don't ignore me. All right, let's see what kind of chats we got going on here. Not too many. Thanks for watching, you guys, this morning. Dennis Redmond. Beautiful, Dan. Thank you, Dennis. And Rita Donahue. Zoom so we can see that on the bridge. Oh, okay, sorry, Rita. Rita, I missed that already. Zoom in. Rita kept saying zoom in, and I didn't see that chat. I hope, Rita, that if you're still here. Yeah, so here's the little bit of yellow that I added on top of what was red. And hard to describe, hard to explain. Now, let me let me explain something. Just in case you missed this, with this layer of broken color, it is always lighter color on top of darker, not the vice versa. If you do darker on top of lighter, it's got to be transparent. None of this was transparent. You could do that. But for me, I've already done all the dark transparent, and this is the final layer. So it's always light. You don't, man, if you want to know what I'm talking about, you have to, when I wrap up here in a few minutes, YouTube, search Dan Nelson Avoiding Mud. Dan Nelson Avoiding Mud. It's about an 11-minute video where I describe and demonstrate, I think, quite clearly what mud is. And it has to do with the misuse of opacity. Marita, thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. So here's I'll zoom out just for a minute and let you see the finished painting. I am fairly happy with it. Let me see if I turn off this light. Does your, oh yeah, it's a little bit dark now, but that's essentially what it looks like. Okay, I will almost certainly post a good high-res image of this at on YouTube. If you go to my channel, and along the top there's videos, and one of those says the word community. Click on that and you'll see the still images that I post fairly occasionally. I think that's a fair way to put it, on YouTube. The last image that I posted there, by the way, was this, this document. So if you want to, that's why I didn't hold it up long enough for you to read. This is available to you right there on YouTube community. Right? Any other last comments? Nope. Marita Gaines, love it. Thank you. Let me turn the light back on. It seems awfully dark. I like it too. I'm happy to say. I'm getting better. Typically, the way improvement in one's art journey happens, often the way it happens is you'll accidentally punch into a new level and say, "Whoa, that's a good. What happened in that painting?" And many times you don't really know what you did to make it a good painting. But then over the course of days, weeks, months to come, light bulbs begin to come on, and you go, "Oh, that's what I did that one time," and it goes from from unconsciously aware to consciously aware, then you know what you're doing. I never mind. I reverse that a little bit from, let's be that as it may. I do think that is what happens. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate that. Glad to give. And again, I've said this before. Part of the reason I do this broadcasting, I love it. Gives me life. Put me in a room painting, and my happy meter is pretty high. Put me in a room painting with a camera on me, and my happy meter goes through the roof. Go figure. I discovered that after the fact. But one of the reasons I love it is because because the teacher learns more than the student. You've heard that before. That's what's happening here. I tell you, I teach you, therefore it reinforces in my mind these principles, and it is that teacher mindset that led to this. This is for me a good document. Now, you don't have to paint like me, but for me, this is a good roadmap at the moment. All right, I have chattered on long enough, probably way too long. Femox, hey, good to see you again. Missed you for a while. What's the best strategy in painting those small windows? Suggestion over outlining them. Oh, good. Okay, I was done. Hang on, we're not done. Let's answer that. Femox, let's answer that very good question. And let me zoom in on the worst, well, I guess those two buildings right there. That's right. What's the best strategy for painting in like small windows? Femox, the answer is layer. Stage 1, stage 2, stage C, stage D. AB1, AB2, AB3, 4, 5. Okay? In other words, you don't do it all at once. You do it by degrees. You do one thing, then another. You do something in the light part, then you do something in the dark, then light, then dark, then light, then dark. Some of it is done with outlining. Some is done with brush. Some is done with a palette knife. Some is done with scratching. Some is done with lifting off. There's probably 6 or 7 different strategies executed. And again, if you watch me go back and watch me paint this on Saturday and Friday. So Daily Art Adventures number whatever 542 and 543, I think. Where I'm doing this painting, you'll see that. That's a very good question, Femox. Thanks for asking it. The same is true for any highly complex or variegated subject matter. When there's a busyness happening, how do you do that? Same thing if there was an up-close tree. There aren't here, but if you have a tree with branches and leaves and stuff like that, how do you do that? You do it with process. The danger from many students is to try to knock it out all at once. Now it's time to paint windows. No. Window, wall. If I can contrast window versus wall, and the windows are dark and the wall's light, in this case, window, wall, window, wall, window, wall. Okay, so that's it. It's in process. It has been a while, Femox. Good to have you back. Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to wrap up there. This is getting plenty long. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up and a comment and share it. If you don't like it, let's just keep that between you and me. All right. I might broadcast later today. I've got a couple other little commissions. Watercolor commission. That'll be fun. I enjoy that for a break that I'm looking forward to working on maybe today. And an illustration job. And I've got this eternal calligraphy job waiting for me every day. So good news is, for me, I'm happy with this painting. Isn't that a great feeling? When you get that feeling, but I'm lifting out a little bit of light here, still painting as I talk. Yeah, there we go. This morning I did a real pale, thin, very, very thin, warm glaze of the entire painting, and it looked better. The painting improved with that, but I just lifted off some right there to make those two little bits pop a little lighter. I'm going to do the same thing right down here. All right, now I'm having the same problem that every artist knows. Help